It was one of those winter nights when the city feels like it's holding its breath. Snow fell softly under the glow of streetlights, cars whispered through slush, and somewhere high above the skyline, a man named Ethan Cross sat in the backseat of a black limousine, silent, expressionless, and alone. He wasn't just any man. Ethan was the kind of name people printed in magazines. The billion-dollar brain, they called him. A self-made tech mogul, sharp as glass, and just about as warm. His company ruled the industry, his face appeared on billboards, and yet, inside, he was empty. You see, Ethan hadn't always been this way. There was a time when laughter came easy, when music filled his home, when he had someone who made him human, his mother. But when she passed 3 years ago, something inside him froze. Every smile since then had been practiced. Every date, every conversation, transactional. Hollow. So when his best friend and CFO, Michael, tried convincing him to go on one last blind date, Ethan nearly laughed. One last? You said that before. Michael had grinned. Yeah, but maybe this one's different. Just try not to scare her away. Ethan rolled his eyes. I'll try not to. He didn't believe for a second that this night would be any different. But he had promised. One dinner, one polite evening, and then back to his high-rise apartment where the world couldn't touch him. The elevator doors opened to a rooftop restaurant glowing with candlelight and glass. Outside, snowflakes pressed against the windows like whispers of another world. Inside, people murmured over wine and soft jazz. And that's when Ethan saw her. A woman in a red dress sat alone at a corner table, gazing out at the snow. The dress wasn't glamorous, just simple, modest, with a soft warmth to it. Her hair fell over one shoulder, and there was something about her smile, peaceful, unhurried. It wasn't the smile of someone waiting to impress anyone. It was the smile of someone who was content just to be. Ethan walked over. Miss Parker, he asked. She turned, meeting his eyes with a kind of calm curiosity. Yes, she said, and you must be Ethan Cross. He nodded. She offered her hand. It's nice to meet you. Her grip was confident, not nervous, not eager, and that alone surprised him. Please, she said, gesturing to the seat across from her. Sit. You look like you just escaped a meeting. That actually made him laugh, a small, real laugh, not the polite kind he perfected. I did, he admitted. She smiled. Then I'll try not to make this another one. And that's how it began. They talked. Not the kind of talk Ethan was used to, the shallow, status-filled chatter of investors and heiresses, but real talk. When he asked what she did, she said, I'm a teacher. 3rd grade, public school. He blinked. A teacher. Yep, she said proudly. Not as fancy as CEO of Cross Tech Industries, but my empire is made of crayons and sticky notes. He couldn't help it. He laughed again. You laugh like it's a rare thing, she said softly. He looked down at his glass. It is. Anna. Her name was Anna Parker, didn't pry. She didn't ask about his fortune or his cars. Instead, she looked him in the eye and asked something that hit deeper than any business pitch ever could. What made you smile last? He hesitated. The answer should have been easy. But it wasn't. I don't remember, he said quietly. Anna tilted her head, smiling gently. Then maybe that's what we'll change tonight. Dinner passed with a surprising ease. She told him stories about her students, how one boy thought dinosaurs lived under the city, how another left her love notes written in crayon. Ethan found himself listening, actually listening, and for the first time in years, his mind wasn't filled with deadlines or deals. It was filled with laughter. When dessert came, she leaned forward playfully. Your turn, she said. Tell me something that isn't in a magazine article. He thought for a moment. I used to play the piano, he said. Before all this. Her eyes lit up. Really? Why'd you stop? He looked out at the snow beyond the window. Because success got louder than music. Anna smiled, reaching across the table to tap his hand gently. Maybe it's time to let the music play again. For a man who prided himself on logic, those words didn't make sense, but somehow, they made him feel something he hadn't felt in years. When the night ended, neither wanted it to. The snow was thicker now, the world quieter. Ethan walked her to her car. Thank you for tonight, Anna said softly. I didn't expect to laugh this much. He smiled. Neither did I. She hesitated, then said, would you like to do this again? He nodded instantly. Yes, definitely. She smiled again. Maybe. But next time, Not as, Ethan Cross, CEO. Just Ethan. Before he could reply, she got into her car and drove off, leaving him standing there in the snow, wondering why her words felt like a challenge, and a promise. Days passed, then weeks, but Ethan couldn't shake her from his thoughts. He noticed things he hadn't before, the silence of his penthouse, the emptiness of his success. For years, he'd built walls. But somehow, Anna had walked right through them with a smile and a story about crayons. He began changing, almost without realizing it. He walked to work instead of calling his driver. He turned off his phone before bed. He stopped reading emails over dinner. And one evening, he found himself uncovering the old piano in his apartment, brushing off the dust, pressing a key. It was out of tune, but it sang. And for the first time, Ethan felt alive again. A few weeks later, on a snowy afternoon, Ethan drove past the school she had mentioned. Kids were running, laughing, chasing snowflakes in the yard. And there she was, Anna, kneeling down to help a little boy tie his shoelace. She looked up, saw him watching, and smiled. That same peaceful, gentle smile. He waited for her after class. The hallway smelled like chalk and childhood. Ethan, she said, surprised. What are you doing here? I was in the area, he lied, trying to sound casual. She folded her arms, teasing. You drove across the city just to say hi. He smirked. Maybe I wanted to see if you were real. She laughed. You're something else, Ethan Cross. Just then, a little girl ran up with a broken backpack strap. Miss Parker, it ripped again. Anna knelt without hesitation, fixing it with a paperclip. Ethan watched. The kindness, the patience, the care, and something inside him shifted. When the girl ran off, Anna looked at him and said softly, see. My empire. He smiled. It's beautiful. Weeks turned into months. They started meeting more often. Coffee on Sundays, walks in the park, nights at her tiny apartment filled with books and warmth. She taught him to cook pasta. He burned half of it, but she laughed so hard, he didn't care. For the first time in his adult life, Ethan Cross wasn't living for tomorrow. He was living today. But one evening, Anna didn't show up. No call, no text, nothing. Worried, he drove to her apartment. Lights off, curtains drawn. His phone buzzed. It was a message from her sister. Anna's in the hospital. She didn't want you to know. His heart stopped. When he arrived, she was there in the hospital bed, pale but smiling. Why didn't you tell me? He whispered, sitting beside her. Because I didn't want pity, she said softly. He shook his head, gripping her hand. You're the strongest person I know. She gave a small laugh. It's my heart, she admitted. It's always been weak, but I'm okay. No, he said fiercely. I'll get the best doctors, anything you need. She stopped him gently. Ethan, stop trying to fix everything. He froze. All your life, you've been building things, companies, walls, control. But some things, she placed his hand over her chest. Some things are meant to be felt, not fixed. He couldn't speak. Over the next few weeks, Ethan stayed by her side. He canceled meetings, turned off his phone, brought soup she barely touched, and played piano softly in her room. Every note was for her. One night, as snow fell outside the window, Anna whispered, "Do you know what I wished for that night we met?" He shook his head. "I wished you'd remember what it feels like to love something without expecting anything back." He swallowed hard. "You did that for me." She smiled faintly. "Then my wish came true." Spring arrived. The snow melted, but her strength didn't return. One morning, when Ethan came in, her bed was empty. A nurse handed him an envelope. His hands trembled as he opened it. "Dear Ethan, don't be sad. You gave me the happiest months of my life. You reminded me what it feels like to be truly seen. Promise me one thing. Keep teaching your heart to listen. Keep playing music. And when you see the first snow, remember me smiling. Because I will be." The words blurred as his tears fell. But the strange thing was, he didn't feel the cold anymore. He just felt quiet, peaceful. A year later, the world had changed. Ethan had changed. Crosstech's annual gala, once a glittering show of wealth, looked different now. The chandeliers were dimmer. The guests were different. Teachers, families, children. Ethan took the stage, not in a tuxedo, but in a simple black shirt. Behind him, a banner read, "The Anna Parker Foundation, for Education and Heart Health." He took a breath, and the crowd fell silent. I used to think success was about how much you own, he said, voice low but steady. But a woman once showed me that the greatest wealth is in how much you give. The room filled with applause. But Ethan wasn't looking at the crowd. He was looking out the tall glass windows, where the first snow of the season had begun to fall. And for a moment, he swore he saw her. Standing outside in the snow. Red dress. Smiling. He smiled back. Then he walked over to the piano waiting on stage. Sat down. And began to play. The music was soft, tender, alive. Each note carried a memory. Her laughter, her kindness, her light. And as the snow fell heavier outside, the man who once lived frozen in silence was gone. Only Ethan remained, a man who had finally learned how to love again.